Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I think it's long overdue that I share a strategy for sustaining your Kingsmarch, so here is an interesting one. In the previous video, I briefly touched on how to minimize your playtime while maximizing the profit with Kingsmarch. So in this video, I'll share a strategy designed to sustain your town with enough gold and dust with minimal playtime. I had to change my filter to optimize for this farm. You can find an updated version of my filter in my Discord. Please find the link in the description of this video. Now, let's get into the strategy. Let's talk about why having a strategy to farm dust and gold at all. You can farm gold just by running juice maps in any strategy, especially 8 modded or tier 17. And for dust, you can buy tier 0 unique to disenchant. Yes, both of those points are valid. So let's start with the pros for running this strategy. Minimize your playtime. This strategy gives on average 50,000 gold and 250,000 dust per map. So in less than 10 maps, you'll get enough gold to sustain all your level 10 farmers, and extra gold to disenchant the jewelry for dust at Rogue. The strategy is a low investment tier 16 farm with cheap scarabs, so it's easy to get it going, and it's designed to give potential jackpot unique drops as well, so you don't have to worry about losing money. From now on, you'll never need to pick up jewelry from anywhere else. Just run a few maps, fill your stash with the influenced jewelry, pick up enough gold, and call it a day. The downside is this is a Titanic Rogue Exiles farm, so you're going to need 2 things, rarity and a very strong build, which hopefully at this point in the league is not a problem. Full disclaimer, I'm running a 300 plus rarity setup, so the result may vary with yours, though I suspect it won't be too much given how rarity scales with gold. There are multiple layers to this strategy. We're scaling the loots of unique monsters with the titanic scarabs, possess rogue exiles, and rarity on our gears, to the point where they give a lot of uniques and gold. We're making our rogue bigger with the gigantification scarab, and reviving them with the ritual when possible. The giant rogue gives less loot when respawns, but the smaller one that splits out will still give full loots. Therefore, we'll get a big loot explosion with the right condition, and we can do it 4 times in 4 rituals. If that's not enough, we're using the Apparition Scarab to make our rogue printout influence jewelry, and they are worth a lot of dust. Just make sure to adjust your filter or use mine to filter out the jewelry. This is the Atlas tree setup, and I optimized for 3 mechanics. Rogue Exile, Ritual, and Shrines. For Rogue Exiles, we're taking all the points, except Rogue Trader. This point is a big no, because we're not farming the rewards loot tiles from Rogue, so all it does is make your life harder. All the other nodes are mandatory because we're juicing up the Rogue Exiles in our maps, and we want all of them. Especially Ruckus when it procs, you'll be swimming in gold for that map. Next is Ritual. I optimize for exactly 100% spawn chance for Ritual, so make sure you have 90% spawn chance for Ritual in the Atlas. Then block this node here for an additional 2%, and that is 100% chance for Ritual on every map. Make sure you take a Cult Devotion as well, so you get 4 rituals on every map. We want to have a higher chance to spawn Ritual on our giant rogue exiles to resummon them. I'll explain the mechanics later in the map showcase. Last, we have Shrine, and we're taking every node, even this Duration Shrine node, because we need to have longer Shrine buffs for this strategy. The rest of the tree are a standard 8 modded map. I'm taking Eldritch Altar with Scarab nodes and maximum map implicit nodes. Remember, you need to run 8 modded map or you will not get the result you're looking for. Onto the Scarabs and Map setups. We're running the standard Titanic and Titanic Scarab of Legend for maximizing the gold and loots gained from the rogue exiles. Then we'll be running one Anarchy Scarab, one Gigantification Scarab, and one Domination Scarab of Apparitions. Occasionally, when you don't need more jewelry, we'll swap one of the Gigantification Scarab with one Domination Scarab of Apparitions, and this will be a standard Rogue Exile's unique farm. The Apparition Scarab will be how we'll get all our dust as it drops a metric tons of influenced jewelry, and we will disenchant them for on average 10,000 dust, which is a lot. This is why I have to adjust my filter specifically for this farm to pick up all these jewelry. You'll also get some good influence base as well, and those can be sold for multiple divines. The premium map choice will be Toxic Sewer, because in my experience, it's the best map for rogue exiles. The layout is straightforward with the small corridors, increasing the chance for rogue exiles to spawn in our ritual. If you didn't know, the ritual will only count the mobs that spawn naturally on it when you zone into the map. So don't try to pull them into the ritual circle because that will not work. The boss is also easy, and overall, it's a good layout once you get used to it. For the map device, the obvious choice is Anarchy. Another really important thing when you run the Apparition Scarab is that your map should not have the buff on you expire faster modifiers. We want the Apparition's Shrine buff to stay on us for as long as possible. Let's get into the first map and I'll explain how do you run them optimally. It's a simple 3-step process that I apply to running this map. First, as we get into the map, you need to rush to the Apparition Shrines, and you'll know when you see it because the Conqueror will be there. It's important you don't kill too many rogue exiles during the first step, because you only want to kill them when you have the buff on you. Otherwise, they won't drop the influence jewelry. Since I'm playing Chieftain, the explosion may get harder sometimes because they just get caught in the explosion. You see the Hunter here, so it means this is our first Apparition Shrine. We click on it, and the next step is to rush to the boss. The layout is usually pretty simple. You just hug the outer wall, and eventually you will get to the boss's room. The reason why we're rushing to the boss room is to check whether or not we'll have a ritual's altar spawn in it with giant rogue exiles. Essentially, our goal is to fish for a good boss room with giant rogue exiles, and the boss spawns on top of a ritual altar. Killing them for a big loot explosion, activate the rituals, then do it again for the other 3 rituals. Once the first Apparition's Shrine buff runs out, you pick up the second buff. Then finish the rest of the map, killing all the rogue exiles, and only do the ritual if it's good. In this particular map, the ritual in the boss room is not that good, and there are no good ritual anywhere else, so I leave the map early. Talk about good ritual. Here's what a good map looks like. In both of these maps, I got well over 100,000 gold. In each map with some really juice up ritual and loot explosion. Here is the first ritual with a lot of giant rogue exiles. At this point, I have a lot of jewelry already, so I pop this ritual right away instead of looking for my first Apparition Shrine. When you encounter a ritual like this, make sure to capture the ritual with a ritual vessel, and then you can use that vessel later to do an optional rogue exile farm. I actually forgot to do it here, but I think I backtracked and did it later in the map. Here's our first Apparition Shrine, so we pop it and rush to the boss room. You have to be careful when picking the Eldritch Altar. Don't take too many Rippy mods because the rogue exiles are already dangerous as is. Definitely try to take as many quantity altars as possible though. You'll have to know your build limitation. Now this is why we rush to the boss room first, because when it's crowded in here, the loot explosion do get crazy. We're on a timer, so make sure you get all the giant rogue exiles, then pop the ritual. I mean, look at all these influence rings and amulets. We'll have to come back for them later since we got 2 more rituals to go. Definitely use your ritual vessels on this ritual altar though. I'll show you my setup after this map. That was like 2 or 3 giant rogues together with the boss. Very good ritual indeed. We picked up the 2nd apparition shrine and rushed to do this 3rd ritual of the map here. Remember that the giant rogue exile and the boss will give less loot, but the smaller rogue exiles will give full loot. So the loot explosion will still be very nice. And that was the 4th ritual and the map. I'll show you a quick highlight of the 8 maps. Then we'll break down the loot and talk about the profit calculation. Welcome back. Now that I have a full stash tab, we will break down the loot. But first, let's talk about some goals that I have in mind. I need to make at least 500,000 gold to sustain my Kingsmarch for the day. That includes 360,000 gold for the farmers and about 156,000 gold for my 6 level 10 disenchanter, given that they are working 24 hours, which is likely not. I want to farm at least 360 influence jewelry for disenchanting. There's a total of 60 slots at the disenchanter, and if you have all level 10 workers, it will take roughly 4 hours to disenchant everything. I did all of that in less than 1 hour of mapping, and maybe a bit more if I finish all 10 maps. Anyway, so in 8 maps, I got a total of 570,000 gold. That is, on average, 70,000 gold per map. So the first goal is achieved. Next, I got a total of 503 jewelry in total, way above the goal. And I should have swapped the Apparition Scarab with one of the Gigantification Scarab to farm more gold, but for the purpose of the showcase, I did not. All of that is done in under 1 hour. And the loots are pretty good as well. According to wealthy exiles, I made about 8.9 divine in revenue. I'll tell you now that this is a very profitable strategy with potential jackpot, so it's a 2-in-1 really. You just need to swap around one scarab. I'll showcase how I run the ritual vessel map for you as well, so you know what to expect. Remember the ritual vessel we capture on any good ritual altar? This is where you use it. Here's our setup: 2 ritual vessels, 1 titanic scarab, 1 titanic scarab of legend, and 1 apparition scarab. We still run anarchy on the map device, and the atlas tree is the same. There's only one small difference in how you run the map here. You don't have to rush to the boss room after picking up the shrine, mainly because your ritual is already very juiced up and you don't need to check the boss room first. Just pick up the shrine and go click on any rituals. This ritual will bring all the enemies you have captured in the previous map, and that include the giant rogue exiles. These giant rogue exiles will also scale with the titanic scarab and split into more rogue exiles as well. So you'll get in total 4 loot explosions if you set up your ritual vessel correctly. For the people that like to buy item to disenchant for dust, the math is roughly 1 million dust equal to 2.5 to 3 divines. At the current rate of divine, each of these rings and amulets you pick up is worth about 5 chaos each. So it's not like you're not making profit from these jewelry, you know? And with that last loot explosion, we have come to the end of the video. If you have watched until the end, comment anything below with a lazy word in it, and I'll respond to it first. Please like, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one soon.